And welcome back to Meeting of the Minds. I'm Gene Zanetti, your coast-to-coast mindset coach from Wrestling Mindset, bringing to you another great episode of Meeting of the Minds with Stevens Institute of Technology coach Joe Favia. Welcome aboard. How's it going, brother? You're
Good, man.
sideways.
How are you doing? Thanks for having me.
You're sideways on me.
There we go. Yeah,
There we go. How's it
Cool.
going?
Good, man. Good. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just trying to get myself a little
congratulations on your
situated
son.
here.
You have a namesake,
Oh,
huh?
thank you, man. Yeah.
Praise God.
Yeah, we're pretty excited.
This is your first.
Yeah, for sure. It is. Yep. And it's definitely a crazy time. So just really blessed, really grateful that he's able to be healthy, and my wife and I were able to be there in the hospital, and I was able to be with them, most importantly.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank God, man. That's great. I just had my son, my namesake last year. So that's Gene the Fourth. So it's an exciting thing, man. I'm so happy for you. That's great.
There you
I know
go.
what that's like.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah. All right. So tell us what's been going on with the Stevens wrestlers. I know, we're all in the same kind of boat here, but what are you telling them? What are they doing? How do they keep getting better during this time?
Yeah. I think that, I've listened to a bunch of the chats that you have had on with some of the other guys, and, we're all just doing the same thing. We're all in the same situation. It's just about finding ways to progress yourself, make yourself better. And, the communication that we've had mostly with our guys is, hey, listen, the playing field is equal, for
Right.
every wrestling program across the country. And, I think it's unique in that, it's never been equal before. You have teams like Iowa and Penn State and Oklahoma State and so on and so forth who maybe have the upper hand over a small school, in Division I, and same thing in Division III. You have big wrestling powerhouses in Division III who, might
Same
have
boat.
advantages over other programs. And right now everybody's in the same spot. So we have an opportunity here to continue to close the gap with some of the best teams in the country. We've done a good job to put ourselves in that position already, even when the playing field might not have been equal. So, now's an opportunity, like I heard Reader talking about the other day, to really jump levels, and take advantage of this opportunity and really just widen the gap almost. If you were already at that spot, we want to build on our lead. So, that's the communication that we've been having, but, it's internally motivated. These guys got to motivate themselves to get out there and get it going. And, Anthony and I and Del Vecchio can try to motivate these guys as much as we want to go out there and get this stuff done. But at the end of the day, you're either sitting on your couch or you're going to get up and do something.
Absolutely. No, big time. It's so important. Like you said, it's like closing that gap on the teams that are maybe a little bit ahead, and it's widening the gap on the other teams. So it's absolutely huge. Oh, there it is. Pasquale Vizzoni gives us a duck. Pasquale, what's going on? There we go.
Nice.
All right. Got your coach on here, so be good. Yeah. So what are some of the main philosophies for Stevens? And you're doing great things over there, taking over a great program. Mike Clayton, we were working with you guys a while back and everything. I know it just got a great tradition of success, both on the mat and in the classrooms, and just really forming good people. So what are some of the philosophies you have over there?
Yeah. So, I think that we've come a long way in the last couple of years. Obviously I was a part of the program. My older brother was a part of the program when we brought it back in 2004. We had a program through the mid 80s, and then we dropped it. And then we brought it back in 2004. So, we didn't really have, very much of a success pattern when I came in 2014. So, a big part of that was changing the culture that we had and how we can build this into something really special and get to a place that, as an athlete, I always felt like we deserved to be. And how do you go about doing something like that? It's just mending together a bunch of the different philosophies that, I've been exposed to throughout my career, and that started with Ernie Monaco, who's, in my opinion, one of the best coaches in the world. I don't care what level that's at. He did unbelievable things to shape me and who I was. And, what I learned as I went on and I wrestled at Stevens. I went to the University of Iowa, spent time training there. Have been privileged to be around the world team and coach for USA Wrestling, and, you know, been around Mike Duro was a big influence in my life. And to see that, you know, as I get exposed to more and more high level coaches, the things that I learned from Ernie were just echoed repeatedly over and over and over again. And you know, that can't be sold short. And, you know, I just found ways to take what I learned from Ernie, Tom, Terry, Gable, Dan Gable, all the other guys who I've been around, and Coach Duro, and make those into something that I thought would fit what we had at Stevens, which is, you know, high academics, a very regimented lifestyle, and things like that. So, you know, we talk a lot about this one more philosophy. I would say that that's probably our benchmark, you know, and our staple for our culture. And, you know, I took a lot of that from Coach Smith, you know, out at Mizzou. I was at the Leadership Academy. I think it was maybe my first year of coaching. You know, I went into that Coaches Academy, you know, and I just heard him talk about his Tiger style and all of that. And, you know, as I kind of delved into that a little bit and I started to create what I thought was going to be important for us at Stevens, I quickly realized that, you know, everybody has the same philosophy, you know, and as I listened to, you know, Lee Kemp talk on your show, and I listened to Reader and a bunch of these other guys, you know, and even Coach Bell yesterday, you know, everybody's kind of echoing the same thing. And it's just about how can you create, you know, that culture and that lifestyle, you know, to be utilized in the situation that you have, right? And we have a unique situation at Stevens. It's probably, if not the most competitive academic school in the country, you know, and we go up recruiting against all the Ivy League schools in Stanford and Northwestern. I mean, you know, we're looking for the highest level athletes that we can find. And of course they need to also have the academics. So that puts us in the conversation with those Ivy League schools and schools of that caliber. You know, but it's pretty difficult to get accepted to Stevens, you know, so we really need to find the right guy to fit our culture. So that one more philosophy is just about always giving that extra effort. You know, it was something that we talked a lot about at Iowa when I was there, you know, and it was kind of talked about under the rug, if you will. You know, Tom and Terry were never somebody that would rub something in your face. You know, they always, you know, at least in my experience with them, it was always about, you know, you sink or swim, you know, so you understand that philosophy by going through what they put you through, and you understand why they're having you do what you do, or you don't. You know, and I was just really fortunate to be around Ernie at a very young age where I understood that, because that's what he preached to us. You know, and I took to that at a really young age. And that's what we talk about at our program. You know, everything that we're doing, you need to put an extra effort forth. You know, going in and being in the classroom and being in the wrestling room are no different, right? If you want to succeed academically, it's not just about showing up to class, right? It's about doing the extra stuff. It's about going and meeting with your professors. It's about sitting in the first 2 rows of every class. You know, it's about not doing your projects right at the due date. It's about doing it well in advance, right? And that can echo for every high level athlete, right? Everybody knows that it's not just about showing up to practice, right? You got to be mentally locked in. Your nutrition's got to be where it needs to be. You got to make sure that you're having the right weight cuts. You got to make sure that you're showing up to practice and getting the most out of that. No matter if you got the best practice partner or the worst practice partner, you go out and you compete. You got to make the most out of those opportunities. You know, and obviously you can see how this chain can continue to build and grow. You know, so it was easy for me to develop this kind of one more mentality. And again, you know, credit to Coach Smith and what he, you know, what I learned from him speaking, you know, during that time. You know, so I was just really grateful for that opportunity to be there with them and kind of build this one more philosophy and that culture, you know, and it spirals into 100 different directions, right? I mean, we talk a lot at Stevens about, you know, we don't take the elevator, we don't take the escalator, whatever it might be. You know, we're always taking the stairs because we want to build that tradition and that mindset, right? That it just becomes a second nature, you know. Tom and Terry would always say to us, you know, like, you're not coming in to do extra. It's not extra. It's what's necessary to have a high level of success, right? You want to come in and get on the Aerodyne and get in a sauna and come in and lift, or get an extra, you know, a workout in with a partner to go over technique. It's not extra. That word is not conducive to your success. It's what's necessary, right? And if you want to have a high level of success, then you're not going to take shortcuts, you know, and you could call shortcuts and you can associate it with whatever you want. You know, one thing that was very tangible for me is, hey, you know, either you can walk up to the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 10th floor of this building and get the most out of that experience, or you could stand in the elevator like everybody else, you know, and we don't want to be like everybody else. We want to be unique. You know, we want to be uncommon amongst those uncommon few, right? So it's not common to be a national champ, right? But we don't want to just be a national champ. We want to be the OW of the tournament. We want to be the guy who's scoring the most points, who everybody's looking at and marking in their you know, in their brackets when he's coming up on the next mat, and so on and so forth. Whether they're for you or against you, we want you there watching. You know, so that's a big push for our program.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, doing it's necessary. It's not going the extra mile, because that's what you have to do if you're trying to be the best. And right. I love taking that tenacity and that being ferocious as a student, as a wrestler. It's like you said, it's asking questions. It's going in for extra help. It's sitting in the first 2 rows. It's critical. And that's what you're going to need to do. And again, you're swimming with the sharks again at Stevens. I remember when I was on my recruit trip at Rutgers, because I went to Rutgers my first 3 years, which is a great school in its own right. And, you know, what did I know? I wore my varsity jacket on the college campus, and my high school was JP Stevens, but on the back it just said Stevens Wrestling.
Right.
And the guys on the team, and one of the guys said, "Oh, you know, take your varsity jacket off when we're going out here." And the other guy was like, "No, keep it on, because it says Stevens. They might think you go to Stevens Institute. The girls will think you're smart." So, so there's a lot of respect for Stevens Institute. And like you said, you're swimming in the sharks with wrestling and with academics. That you're just going to have to be ferocious. And I mean, how spoiled are we in New Jersey? The fact that we have guys like Ernie Monaco who are just legends, and that they're saying the same thing as a Coach Smith, as Gable, as Brands. We have wrestling clubs everywhere. I mean, it's a huge deal where we are. I'm real close to, Easton, Pennsylvania, the whole Lehigh Valley,
right,
which is great. So it's, we're in a great spot. So
yeah, and I think it's a little bit underserved in a sense that it's, sometimes everybody thinks you need to have this giant platform or this big exposure. I have to go to this school or I have to go to this club because, this guy's always on this platform of social media, or he works with so-and-so and I see him do this and that. And it's, there's great coaches all over the place, and it's just about finding the right people and the right fit for you. And, I think that's something that was a big part of me being with Ernie and going through that kind of experience with him, and now me here at Stevens, and we're recruiting against those Division I programs, and it's like, hey, you can be on a Division I team and wear the equipment, right, and get the gear. And if that's your desire and that's what you want to do, then that's great. But that's not the kind of guy who I want, right? And again, that just goes back to my experiences with Tom and Terry. I remember them saying to me when I first got out there, one day where they didn't. I didn't maybe push it as hard as I should have in that practice. And, I was on the Aerodyne after practice because I was upset with my performance. And, Terry gets on the bike next to me and, he's just like, hey man, listen, if you're here just to wear the gear, and say that you're a part of this program, then I think that you should get off this bike and find yourself to the door, and that's what it's about. It's not about going to a school where you just I want to be a part of a Division I. You need practice. And, I was on the Aerodyne after practice because I was upset with my performance. And, Terry gets on the bike next to me and, he's just like, hey man, listen, if you're here just to wear the gear, and say that you're a part of this program, then I think that you should get off this bike and find yourself to the door, and that's what it's about. It's not about going to a school where you just I want to be a part of a Division I program. I want to say to whoever, I want to get more coverage by Flow or social media or whatever. It's about finding the program that's the best fit for you, where you can grow and you can develop, and I love what Coach Bell had said about that yesterday, where he was, or whenever I had watched the video, he said that, when he's bringing guys into Bergen Catholic, like they have to understand that they're not, you might not come into Bergen Catholic and be a starter. You know what I'm saying? It's not about being here and winning. It's about being in this environment where you're going to get better, whether you're the number 1 guy or the number 2 guy or number 3 guy. And that's the philosophies that we've brought into Stevens. And we've, been very fortunate over the last couple of years to create this depth, and we still have a long way to go, but we've created depth at certain weight classes where some people just don't understand why kids are on our team, and we're not pumping our lineup with 40, 50 kids. We have a hard 30 number on our team. And but we have depth at weight classes where, guys were 4-year starters, state place winners, and they might not see the starting lineup until their sophomore year. Right. But they knew that coming into this program, and they knew that this was the best opportunity for them to grow and develop, not just as an athlete, but as a student athlete. And I think that that's imperative for young guys to understand, that it's about putting yourself in the right situation. If you look at Iowa teams of the past and Oklahoma State teams of the past, and it's, you got guys coming out of, redshirt or being behind some of these top guys for 3 full years, in their first year into their lineup as a junior year, and they're winning the national title. There's no secret why did that happen, because they were wrestling the national champ for the last 4 years in the practice room every day. Right. So that's a tough pill to swallow, but it's the right way to do it. Absolutely.
I think it's the goal that dictates the behavior. Right. And when you look at college, especially, like, of course, you're trying to do well in wrestling. It's great, but you're really trying to set yourself up for success in the future. Very few guys go on to the Olympics. There's a lot of people who are on the senior circuit that, maybe they're like, 4 through 10, and they're doing well and they knock off some good guys. They have some success, but it is a long amount of time for, very small payoff that very few people get. So my thought was always using wrestling as a vehicle to get you into the best school you can and to get you the job and set you up for the future that you want to have. And right. I feel like a place like Stevens, that's a very specific place. You're trying to get a specific education. And if wrestling could open that door to get you into that kind of school, that's huge. And yeah. Whether or not you're starting, again, the goal dictates the behavior. If you're trying to set yourself up for career success, that's really the reason why I went to Penn, because I was very comfortable at Rutgers. I had a great spot there. Darren Schulman was like my own personal coach, gave me a lot of personal attention. I went to Penn really because I had an opportunity to go Ivy League that I would have never had if it wasn't for wrestling. Right. I just did not have the grades to get into a University of Pennsylvania, but wrestling and college helped open that door for me, and Jeff too. And like you said, some guys don't start. I got knocked out of the lineup my senior year. I was a starter sophomore year at Rutgers. I was a starter junior year at Penn. And then senior year, I got knocked out by a sophomore. And then Jeff too, his junior year, his senior year, he got knocked out by a sophomore, a young guy who came in. So, maybe we could have started someplace else, but you're trying to set yourself up for success in the future. And again, there's so few people that actually go on to the Olympics. We're not discouraging any dreams here, but right. Get your education.
Yeah, no, and it's hard. It's hard for young kids who are, by the time you start recruiting them, and they're a sophomore in high school or whatever the case might be, right? It's hard for those guys, even 18-year-olds, for them to look, 40 years down the road, and it's like, hey man, the next 4 to 6 years of your wrestling career, however long you're in it, whether you're in Division I and, you take a couple of red shirts or whatever the case is, this is a drop in the bucket, a blip on the radar of what the rest of your life is going to be, and if you can be, and that was one of my goals coming in as a coach, right? I had a great institution where I was privileged to not have to sell somebody on an education that wasn't real, right? Right. If a Stevens education is gold cladded, right? You can find every statistic in the book. We're right up there with every college in the country. Our wrestlers, 100% of them graduate with full-time job offers, right? I've never had a guy in my coaching career over the last 6 years not graduate with a job. Internships are bountiful and so on and so forth. So my goal was, hey, if we can elevate the level of this wrestling program to match and exceed the academic success that this university can provide, then it's a home run for anybody that wants to be here. It doesn't matter if you want to be a Division I athlete or not, because, my mindset is always that there is no different, right? And we've had plenty of guys make Olympic teams and world teams who weren't necessarily Division I wrestlers, right? Travell was a Division II wrestler, and there's been many more in and out of there who weren't necessarily in a Division I wrestling room for their entire career, that went on to do, great things. Nazar Kulczynski, I wrestled him in the national semifinals, right? He was a Division III guy, and he's out there making world teams and or national teams and things like that, and making a name for himself. So, if we could match that level and provide that for you on a wrestling front, wrestling is wrestling. It doesn't matter where you are, as long as you're getting the right leadership and the right coaching. And again, like I've said 100 times, you're just in the environment that helps you progress and grow, to the best of your ability. And that's not always in a Division I room, right? Because if you're in a Division I room, the top 10 guys are getting the attention, right? And I don't care who you are. If you are not in that starting 10, you are not getting the same level of attention, right? But if you're in our room, we can surround you with a lot of coaches, and you'll get a lot of experience because we're always pulling guys in and out to give guys different chances. And it just creates more opportunity for them to grow and develop. And it's hard, to circle back. It's just hard for a young kid to understand that the education is crucial. And that, it's not just all about being in a Division I program, and the best analogy I have for that, and I throw at our kids all the time that we're talking to on the phone, is like, hey man, you can go to a used car lot and spend $5,000 on a hunker, or you could go to and go and buy a new car. Right. And it might be cheaper up front to buy that hunker from the junkyard. Right. But you're going to stick $1,000 into that every month. Right. Until you got to light that sucker on fire and dump it off a ditch. But if you go out and you get that new car, right, that's going to last you for a long time. And that's what this education is at Stevens. It's going to cost you more up front, right? But you're going to be making more and providing for your families a long way down the road. And there's not always consistent hiring processes and consistent employment when you have a different kind of job, a different kind of degree from a different school, right? And like you were saying, it's a unique school, and we provide a unique opportunity in engineering and business and finance and areas like that. But if that's what you want to do, then this is the place for you. And there's just no two ways around it.
That's right. I mean, that is absolutely huge. Two big things, like you said. Wrestling is wrestling. I think that's a really big deal. I remember me and Galanti wrestled back in college. I was a Penn. He was a TCNJ. It was an overtime match. What does that tell you? That means some days I could have won, some days he could have won. Wrestling's wrestling. Yeah. Right. I think about my brother Greg when he was a freshman at Rutgers. He lost to a junior college kid. He came off the mat crying, and it was like, hey, it's wrestling. Yeah. It's wrestling. Yep. It doesn't make a difference. And it's true, like you said it. And then at those upper levels, for the people who continue, my brother just wrote in Kerry Bowman's. He's true. Another guy. He was in the finals of the Nationals against Brands, and he was, I think, a D2 guy. So it's like you could be good coming from anywhere. So that's a big point. And I also think that, again, you don't want to just look at, like, thinking in terms of prestige. You've got to think in terms of fit. And again, what's setting you up for the future? Because, again, wrestling comes and goes, and I'm all about it. Like, work as hard as you can. Get that national championship. Get that All-American spot. Whatever is, your goal. Even being on the varsity lineup, whatever it is for you. But get your education, because it comes and goes quick. And we see a lot of people that they get done with their wrestling career, and they were not thinking about their future. No. And they're in a bad spot. And it's like, if you were just thinking ahead of time, you could have prevented a lot of this mess that you're in right now, because you were just thinking about wrestling.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, you see a lot of really great kids that come out of New Jersey. It's easy for us to see the New Jersey guys, right? Because we're here all the time, at the state tournament and so on and so forth. And it's, you see these guys make these commitments to these D1 programs, and sometimes you never hear from them again. Everybody's expected to do so well at these programs, and and then sometimes even if they do well, they don't have the post wrestling future career that they might have had if they went somewhere else. And every opportunity is unique, right? Some guys are not made to get into Ivy League schools. They just don't have the grades or the or the prowess to be at those types of institutions. Some do and just financially can't afford it, right? Or there's no scholarship for them, or whatever it might be, and for those types of situations, it's like, hey, you got to do the best of what you can with what you got. Right. So even if the best you could do was to get into, a top 50 school in the country or whatever, you got to make the most of it, and you got to go out there and you got to hustle to put yourself in the best situation. Right. It's that one more mentality. It doesn't matter what you are, where you are, or what the circumstances are. You got to make the most out of it. And man, we are in some unique times, and this is an interesting experience that we have going on right now. And I'm confident that our guys have that one more mentality, and it's just what's next. What can I do to make the most out of this opportunity that I'm in right now? How can I do that one more? How can I start to distance myself from the pack in whatever that might be? And that could be guys tooling up their resumes, or going out and getting workouts in, or finding opportunities to grow in any way, that they can. So that's important. You just never know how it's going to overlap in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. That's big. That's huge. So as far as I'm concerned, if you get into a Stevens Institute of Technology, you better have a darn good reason why you're not going there. Because in my mind, if you're a wrestler, I mean, you're looking at a coach right here. Just listen to everything the coach just said right now. He's hardcore. That's a hardcore mentality. That's among the top you're going to find anywhere in the country. So you have a coach who's coming in with a hardcore mentality, motivated staff, good people there, plus great education. I mean, if you get in there, you better be giving that a heck of a look as far as I'm concerned. So no, it's just great stuff. We can talk about this all night.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts for the wrestlers, for the wrestling world?
I just I think that I had heard Reader talk a lot about just you guys were picking apart mindsets and things like that about going out and having success and how he was able to do that. And
yeah,
it again just echoed a lot of the philosophies that we come across in our program, and a big thing that we talked about this year. And it all just kind of intermingled in what we have here, and how the end of the season kind of transpired in 2020 with the cancellation of the season. And I know that we talk a lot constantly about it's about winning. It's about having this high level of success. It's about being in a program where you can win national championships and so on and so forth. But, the most challenging thing as an athlete and the most challenging thing as a coach is to be able to prioritize, that level of success and that win, and how important it is to be driven by winning, but at the same time be able to eliminate that fear of loss that hinders you from having a high level of success, if you follow me, right? So a lot of
that's
guys
why we have a job.
Have that fear of losing, and it overpowers that want to win so much that they just get bogged down. And something that we preached a lot to this year is, hey man, it's so wild. I think that the Lord works in mysterious ways and teaches us lessons in very unique ways. Some things that we will never understand. But it was just pure coincidence and divine intervention that we had that philosophy, and we really pressed it this year a lot. That right. You control the controllables. We had
right.
a couple of seniors on the team this year who were poised to have a level of success that we always knew that they were destined to have, and including some young guys who we thought were going to, win national championships as true freshmen or win their first national championship. And it was like, hey, those things are great and those are our goals, but we can't overly focus on those things, right? We have to focus on what we can control. And, it all kind of boils down to the situation where we show up at the national championships and we lose the opportunity to perform at that level and have that success. But again, it was just something that we could not control. And, we talk a lot so much about envisioning that level of success, right? And having that visualization and almost living that national championship before you experience it, right? And that was something that I learned a long time ago from Ernie. He used to talk to us, hey, if you guys want to win a state title or go out and make a national team, you have to have already made that team before you got there.
Right.
You have to think about what it's going to be like to, be interviewed after you win that national title. You have to envision what it's going to be like standing on the top of that podium, getting your hand raised, going and seeing your parents, hugging your coaches. And you have to live all of those moments and all of those opportunities, and heavy is the head that wears the crown. And the best way to prepare yourself for that is to live it. And man, we lived it this year. Stevens Wrestling might not have won a national championship this year, and have the hardware to prove it, tangibly. But we lived it between the ears. We lived it, and there's no one that can take that away from us. We knew what we were capable of doing, showing up at the national championship this year with 7 guys. We were confident that we could put all 7 of those guys on the podium, and that we had a handful of guys who can be in the national finals, if not win the national championship, and that would have locked it up for us. So we're eager to get back out there and make it happen again next year and have those opportunities and continue to preach this lifestyle and this philosophy and these mentalities of focusing on what's right, focusing on your own individual improvement, right? And that's something that I think everybody can take away in this time, right? It's so much about you and you and you and how you can get better and how you can progress yourself and develop your mind and your mentality. And it's a really important time for guys to be focusing on that, right? Go and sit down, watch video, man, I can't even remember all of the videos and things that I'm referencing. That's triggering me to talk about different things. I've just been watching so many people speak, so many different podcasts, and I've just been watching film from our world team and things like that. And I have old film from Coach Thoreau that I was gifted when he passed away, and I'm watching all of these old time videos that he's just had that he was using for his film study. And there's so many different ways that we all can sharpen our mind during this time, so that way we can be the best coaches and athletes that we can moving forward. But more importantly, all of these things that we learn in wrestling will make us better humans, better individuals, better husbands, better wives. The whole entire wrestling community can really grow from this opportunity. So, you just make the most out of it, and you make it as positive as you can.
That's it. And that one more, like you said, that's a lifestyle. That's using the sport of wrestling as a vehicle to build virtue, as we're always saying. Like you said, improving mindset now, that's one of the few ways we know everyone can get better. And you're doing it. You're being a ferocious learner. That's critical. We hope everyone's capitalizing on that. And you can see the community that you have behind you, because I see a lot of wrestlers and coaches jumping on. I saw Scott Del Vecchio on before. Shout out to him. All these people that are jumping on. So it's just you can see that family atmosphere and really bringing the heat. Where are some places that people can find more information about the Ducks? Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. How can people follow you so we can get you more and more love?
Yeah, man, we have we're all over the social media platforms. My assistant coach Anthony Bonaventura runs all of that stuff. I'm not too much of a social media presence, but he takes care of all of that stuff for us. We have Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. If you want to go and find more stuff on our program and things like that, there's links in our bios for all of that. You could just reach out to Anthony or I and find our emails right online, or Del Vecchio's, and reach out to us through those avenues. If you want to learn more about the school, it's just stevens.edu. You could go right on there and find out stuff about that. Our athletics website is Stevens Ducks. So you could go on there and find stuff about our wrestling program and our athletics and things like that. And, we're always trying to release stuff about the new incoming class that we have coming in and things like that. So, we would love to hear from everybody. We'd love to grow our family. It's definitely something that we're trying to do every single day. Get more people exposed to Stevens and our mindset and our philosophy and what we can offer everybody is definitely a big priority. The more people that know about us, the more people that are, advocates of our program, the better. So, we're really looking forward to that opportunity. And, this is a great platform for us to get out, and we really, really appreciate you guys, having us on and having an opportunity to share, with your viewership and all that stuff, what we're all about and how, how our program operates and functions. We really are grateful for that.
Absolutely, Joe. We're happy to have you. We'll do it again sometime for sure. We're saying a lot of the same things. It's great stuff.
Yeah.
And again, God bless you. God bless your family, your son. And that's great, man. Enjoy this time. It's just phenomenal.
Thank you. Appreciate it. You as well.
Everyone, make sure you're following everything. Stevens Institute of Technology Wrestling. They're doing great things over there. You see everything Joe's talking about, all the great followers that are jumping on board, the teammates, the coaches. Great thing they got going. Thanks a lot, Joe. Appreciate it.
Thanks, man.
Take care.